Hi, I'm Leslie Dutton, and you're watching GVTV News.
Thanks, Leslie, and I'm Randy Hansen. In world news headlines today, Obama administration to allow Yemeni president to enter U.S. for medical treatment. And Arab League observers arrive in Syria amid fresh violence. The Justice Department blocks controversial South Carolina voter ID law, and Republican presidential hopefuls campaign in Iowa. And Mitt Romney criticizes Obama for failing to keep troops in Iraq. And files reveal Newt Gingrich's first wife did not want a divorce. And a gap between Americans and congressional representatives grows considerably over the last 25 years. And Obama signs 2-month extension on payroll tax, decision on tar sands pipeline now required. And Afghan government to allow opening of Taliban office in Qatar. And Egypt releases prominent blogger detained for nearly 2 months. And Putin rejects calls for parliamentary election reviews as massive protests persist. In Nigeria, church bombings leave at least 27 dead, and secret memo suggests Pakistani military may attempt to oust President Zardari. And a report says lack of preparation, communication, and contributed to the Fukushima nuclear disaster. An Israel woman draws Rosa Parks' link after refusing to give up bus seat to ultra-Orthodox Jewish man. And a hacker group Anonymous claims responsibility for breaking into global intelligence company website. And radio host Lynn Samuels dies at the age of 69. GVTV News content has no connection with NCTV Digital Media Center and is its own program. But before these stories, GVTV News would like to thank one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News. In today's first world news story, Obama administration has reportedly decided to, in principle, to allow Yemeni President Ali Abdullah Saleh to enter the United States, even though his forces have killed hundreds of anti-government protesters over the past year. According to the New York Times, Saleh could arrive in New York as soon as this week for medical treatment for problems stemming from the near-fatal bomb blast in June at his presidential complex. Longtime U.S. ally Saleh has led Yemen since 1978, but recently agreed to relinquish office by February. News comes just days after Yemeni security forces opened fire on protesters in Yemeni capital of Sana'a Saturday, killing at least 9 protesters. One of the protesters said, "What has forced us to take to the streets in this process is the negligence of the politicians. They have turned our revolution into a crisis. They don't want to recognize our revolution. We haven't come out because we want to share the power and the regime. We want the whole regime to be completely overthrown." Arab League observers have reportedly arrived in the Syrian city of Homs just one day after government forces descended on the area, allegedly killing dozens of people. Residents claimed at least 34 people were killed in Homs on Monday, while several neighborhoods were left without food, water, and electricity. 50 observers arrived in Syria on Monday. They will reportedly tour the country in teams of 10 in an effort to assess the condition on the ground. Their identities have largely been kept secret. Some activists worry that the teams will not be able to make an objective judgment of the situation due to Assad's regime's close monitoring of the coalition. The teams will be using government transportation to tour the restive nation and are barred from visiting sensitive government locations. The United Nations estimates the Syrian government has killed more than 5,000 people since it began to crack down in opposition protests in March. The U.S. Department of Justice has blocked South Carolina's new law requiring voters to show photo ID at the polls from taking effect, saying it violates the Voting Rights Act. The Justice Department said data submitted by South Carolina showed that minority voters were about 20% more likely to lack acceptable photo ID required at polling places. Backers of the South Carolina new voter ID law says it is needed to prevent voter fraud, but the state did not submit any evidence to the Justice Department showing that the voter fraud was a problem. And in related news, a 93-year-old Tennessee woman who worked as a maid in the state capitol for 30 years says she has been told she can't vote in the upcoming election because of Tennessee's new voter ID regulations. Thelma Mitchell has a state ID she uses when she cleaned the offices in Tennessee lawmakers, but she has been barred from voting because she cannot produce a birth certificate. And 5 of the major Republican presidential candidates will be campaigning in Iowa 1 week ahead of the state's January 3rd caucuses. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich has been dealt a setback by failing to secure enough signatures to make the ballot in his home state of Virginia. Only 2 Republicans, Mitt Romney and Ron Paul, will be on the Virginia ballot. On Monday, Texas Governor Rick Perry issued a new ad attacking 4 of his opponents for having served in Congress. Photos of Newt Gingrich, Ron Paul, and Rick Santorum and Michelle Bachmann all appear in an ad. Rick Perry's ad said, "If Washington's the problem, why trust a congressman to fix it? Among them, there's been spent 63 years in Congress, leaving us with debt, earmarks, and bailouts. Congressmen get $174,000 a year, and you get the bill. We need a solution." Governor Rick Perry said, "The reason I've called for the part-time Congress, cut their pay in half, cut their time in Washington in half, cut their staff in half. Send them home. Let them get a job like everybody else back home has. I'm Rick Perry, and I approve this message." Good idea, though. In presidential campaign news, former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney has publicly criticized President Obama for failing to keep ground troops inside Iraq. He says, when the announcement was made that the status of forces agreement had not been reached and that we were going to pull out all of our troops, I made the point that to put the successes and the victories there at risk. I hope that the risk is not realized. I hope that we're able to see stability there. But the president's failure to secure an agreement and maintain 10,000 to 30,000 troops in Iraq has to be one of his signature failures. In campaign news, CNN has obtained the files from Newt Gingrich's first divorce in 1980. For years, Gingrich has claimed his wife wanted the divorce, but the records show otherwise. One document reads, "Defendant shows that she has adequate and ample grounds for divorce, but that she does not desire one at this time." Well, they got to dig dirt. They got to dig really deep, don't they? New investigation by the Washington Post has revealed the financial gap between Americans and other representatives in Congress has widened considerably over the past 25 years. Between 1984 and 2009, the median net worth of a member of the House has more than doubled from $280,000 to $725,000 in inflation-adjusted 2009 dollars. Over the same period, the wealth of the American family has declined slightly, with the comparative median figure sliding to just more than $20,000. A key reason for the shift is the soaring cost of political campaigns. According to Federal Election Commission, since 1976, the average amount spent by winning House candidates quadrupled in inflation-adjusted dollars to $1.4 million. In news from Washington, President Obama signed a 2-month extension of payroll tax cut on Friday after House Republicans backed down on their opposition to the bipartisan Senate measure. Obama called on Congress to extend the tax break for a full year and said, "And when Congress returns, I urge them to keep working without drama, without delay, to reach the agreement that extends this tax cut as well as unemployment insurance through all of 2012. Last week I said that this would be a formality, and it's still the case, so let's make sure that we extend this tax break and unemployment insurance for a full year for families, but also for our economy." I guess they're going to do this every 2 months to remind us that they're cutting taxes. It's the right thing to do because more money spent by more Americans means more businesses hire more workers. $90 a month ought to spend a lot there. And that's a boost for everybody, and it's a boost that we very much need right now. Tax break bill signed by President Obama also contains language pertaining to the Keystone XL tar sands pipeline. Bill requires the Obama administration to make a decision on granting TransCanada a permit on the pipeline by late February. Republicans added the provision to the bill after the Obama administration said they would delay making a decision on the project until after the 2012 election. The Afghan government has agreed to allow Taliban to open an office in Qatar in a move that could lead to peace talks between the two sides. The United States has reportedly already held about half a dozen meetings in Germany and Doha with representatives of Taliban's leader, Mullah Omar. The Afghan Peace Commission has said the negotiations with the Taliban could only begin after they stopped violence against civilians, cut ties to al-Qaeda, and accepted the Afghan constitution. Egyptian authorities have released the prominent blogger and activist Alaa Abd el Fattah after nearly 2 months in detention, although prosecutors say that they are still investigating his case. A vocal critic of military rule, Fattah has been accused of inciting violence against the military. Fattah is a nephew of the best-selling Egyptian writer Adaf Soef. And in Russia, Prime Minister Vladimir Putin has rejected calls for a review of disputed parliamentary election results. Contested elections have led to the largest protests Russia has seen in decades, with tens of thousands of demonstrators taken to the streets in Moscow and St. Petersburg. On Saturday, more than 100,000 protesters gathered in the capital. Opposition leader Garry Kasparov claims the controversial elections have galvanized opposition to the Russian political establishment. And he said that this is the first time that people have felt that they are the strong. It seems to me that this is a psychological change. That's not the feeling anymore that there are few of us and many of them. Now we are many. I believe that these people who come out, they are active, successful people. They need to use the internet not only for preparing these types of events and to organize themselves, but also to propose an alternative to the people in power. That power which is corrupt and incapable of solving the country's problems. Kind of sounds familiar. Putin, meanwhile, has said that he can be no talk of review or criticize the massive protest movement by lacking a unified goal. Meanwhile, former Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev has called on Putin to quit politics. And he said, "Nobody sacked me in 1991. I announced the termination of my presidency, but I explained why I did it. So he should do the same. I would go this way. It would be the best, because then anything positive that he did would be protected." In news from Nigeria, at least 27 people were killed on Sunday when a series of bombs exploded in churches filled with parishioners celebrating Christmas. Islamic militant group Boko Haram claimed responsibility for the bombings. Satellite images indicated Nigerian oil spill may significantly be larger than previously reported. And evidence is emerging that the oil spill off the coast of Nigeria may be significantly larger. Well, that's what I just said. Well, that Shell has publicly said less than 40,000 barrels or 1.7 million gallons have leaked. But satellite images from the environmental group SkyTruth shows as much as 2.4 million gallons of oil have spilled. Gee. Pakistan remains in a state of political turmoil as rumors continue to float that the Pakistani army may try to bring down President Asif Ali Zardari's government. Controversial stems from the publication of a secret unsigned memo sent by Pakistan to the United States earlier this year seeking help to rein in the Pakistani military after U.S. forces assassinated al-Qaeda's leader Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. The memo has allegedly been sent by Pakistan's former ambassador to the United States, Hussein Haqqani, who has since resigned. Meanwhile, on Sunday, more than 100,000 Pakistanis gathered in Karachi with a massive rally organized by Imran Khan, the cricket player, and who was also almost a leader. Khan said he ended militancy and corruption in 90 days if elected prime minister. Imran Khan said, "We need a government that changes the system, ends corruption, and so we need the PTI to come to power. First thing we need to do to end corruption." Preliminary report on a nuclear disaster in Japan's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power facility has determined a lack of preparation and poor communication at top levels after disaster struck, where many of the failures and turned the nuclear accident into the worst atomic crisis in 25 years. Panel found Tokyo Electric Power as well as the state regulators failed to sufficiently anticipate a massive tsunami. The panel also said poor communications between Government Crisis Management Center and top officials delayed the use of a system that predicts the spread of radioactivity. This prevented more accurate evacuation orders. The government said last week it may take another 7 years before the inside of the reactors can be checked due to high levels of radiation. An Israeli woman is being compared to the U.S. civil rights activist Rosa Parks after refusing to bow to the ultra-Orthodox Jewish customs and relinquish her seat on a public bus to a man. Tanya Rosenblatt took a Jerusalem-bound bus from her native Ashdod recently when an ultra-Orthodox Jewish man demanded she move to the back of the bus. In ultra-Orthodox Jewish communities, mingling between sexes is forbidden. Women are relegated to the back of the buses when men are present. Rosenblit refused the order, which led to an argument. The bus driver then pulled the bus over and police were called, but Rosenblit maintained her position. The bus carried on to its final destination. Act of defiance has sparked a national discussion on Israel on this issue of gender segregation. And on Monday, a disagreement turned violent when ultra-Orthodox Jews in the Israeli town of Beit Shemesh, clashed with police. Hundreds of men in the ultra-Orthodox community took part in the unrest. Members of the local news crews were reportedly hurt in the clashes, and at least 6 Beit Shemesh residents were arrested. An estimated 10,000 people were expected to turn out in the community to protest the exclusion of women as well as violence against girls and women and by Haredi extremists. Members of a hacking group, Anonymous, have claimed credit for hacking into the website of global intelligence company Straffer and for making donations to charities using credit card information found unsecured on the Straffer website. Hacking Group also released the information of 4,000 credit cards owned by subscribers of Straffer's products. Straffer's website is still not functioning. A banner read, "Site is currently undergoing maintenance. Please check back soon." Action may have been tied to last week's pre-trial hearing for the accused Army whistleblower Bradley Manning. On one online post regarding the hack of Straffer said, "While the rich and the powerful are enjoying themselves with all their Borgios, gifts and lavish meals, our comrade Bradley Manning is not having that great of a time in federal custody." The post went on to say instead of being heralded as, whatever he was, he is criminalized, marginalized, incarcerated, and threatened with life imprisonment. Well, I guess that's what happens if you're a spy. Longtime talk radio host Lynn Samuels has died at the age of 69. She began her radio career at WBAI in New York City and later became a prominent liberal voice in WABC. And that's it for World News Today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it's us, GVTV News.
Something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware.
That's right, it's time for the police blotter, and the pictures in the blotter are not from these actual events, but used for visual aid only. Grass Valley Police Department on Thursday, 7:19 a.m. A caller from 100 block of Ventana Ridge reported an intruder locked in the downstairs bathroom. Officers cleared the house and made contact with the intruder, who was determined to be a visiting member of the caller's family from out of state. 11:12 a.m. A caller from first block of Juan Way reported a prowler who fled and is hiding behind the caller's house. And 5:21 p.m., a caller from 100 block of Mill Street reported a suspicious suspect with 2 different colored contact lenses wearing a fuzzy animal hat was speaking inappropriately to juveniles. At 6:57 p.m., a caller from 600 block of Sutton Way reported possible child abuse when they spotted a 10-year-old handcuffed to a steering wheel in a white pickup truck. Officers made contact with the mother and determined the child had lost the key to a set of play handcuffs. 10 p.m., a caller from 200 block of North School Street reported a male took her keys, then keyed her car. Nevada County Sheriff's Office on Thursday, 11:36. p.m., a caller from 10,200 block of School Street declared that she wanted her half of the story told regarding the landlord harassment report from Wednesday, which occurred in a trailer park. 10:41 p.m., caller from intersection of Quaker Hill and Red Dog Road reported a man who appeared to be distraught walking in the streets obstructing traffic wearing military clothing and carrying an orange backpack. 5:06 p.m., caller from 16,100 block of Fairway Glen Place reported an altercation with their landlord because the landlord allegedly threatened to throw all the caller's belongings outside. At 5:20 p.m., a caller from the store on Highway 49 reported a juvenile was detained after attempting to assault the staff with a hay fork. There were no injuries. At 7:43 p.m., a caller from 12,200 block Alta Sierra Drive reported several inflatable Christmas decorations were slashed with a knife and destroyed. 4:29 a.m., a caller from 11,300 block of Wild Turkey Lane reported a male stumbling around her property who was now in her house warming up. At Nevada City Police Department on Thursday, 4:26 p.m., caller from Commercial Street near Pine Street reported several subjects on the boardwalk playing loud music and yelling. At 7:04 p.m., a caller from corner of Spring and Pine Streets reported two 50 or 60-year-olds sitting on the sidewalk blocking the flow of pedestrian traffic. 11:36 p.m., a caller from 300 block of Park Avenue reported a bear in a neighbor's backyard. And that's it for the Police Blotter today. Now another thanks to one of our underwriters who supports your only visual video news media in Nevada County. That's right, it is us, GVTV.
Soundcheck Music Center, the rock and roll connection. We have guitars, amps, drum equipment, sound accessories, lessons, and repairs. We are located at 671 Maltman Drive, Grass Valley. 530-272-7236, open 7 days a week.
In today's local news headlines, pot, a growing dilemma in the county. And our first local story written by Liz Keller of the Union, a tug-of-war between county government and marijuana proponents continued to make headlines in Nevada County in 2011. Promises to heat up again early next year when proposed cultivation ordinance goes before the Board of Supervisors. Early in the year, local jurisdictions made it clear that dispensaries were not welcome here. In January, Grass Valley City Council members voted down a proposed ordinance to allow and regulate dispensaries. Instead, joined 214 California cities that have banned them outright. Council members cited concern about the effects of marijuana use on young people and worried over the crimes associated with dispensaries in some areas, saying those are generally who need marijuana for medical reasons can get it to the nearest dispensary in Colfax, about a half an hour away in Placer County. And in June, Nevada County okayed a permitted ordinance prohibiting the establishment of medical marijuana dispensaries in the unincorporated areas of the county. Nevada City already has enacted a permanent ban in 2009. And a group of fed-up homeowners in Alta Sierra helped spark a push back against the growing problem in large marijuana gardens in residential neighborhoods. Many residents considered the grow next door far from innocuous, citing concerns over odor, traffic, and risk of robbery. And those concerns led to a move by Nevada County Sheriff Keith Royal to draft a sample countrywide ordinance which drew a packed house to a November Board of Supervisors hearing. Draft sets out restrictions on growing pot. Sample ordinances would limit marijuana gardens to 6 plants in residential zones and 25 plants in any other zone. Those limits would apply to collectives or cooperatives as well. The proposal places significant limitations on where grows can be located. Indoor and outdoor grows would not be allowed within 1,000 feet of any school, bus stop, school evacuation site, church, park, child care center, or youth-oriented facility. Grows would not be allowed within 100 feet of residence on a separate parcel owned by another person or in a mobile home park within 100 feet of an occupied mobile home under separate ownership. Outdoor grows could not be visible from public right-of-way or publicly traveled private road or within 50 feet of legal parcel owned by someone else. Other restricted include noise, light, odor restrictions, as well as building a 6-foot opaque fence for outdoor gardens and setbacks from property lines. Owner of the tenant must register with the sheriff's office and provide proof of current valid recommendation. If the parcel is rented, the owner must provide written consent to the grow. Board of Supervisors could establish a fee for registration. A zip tie purchase provision is included in language in the ordinance, but it worded as an option for the convenience of the property owner and to assist in the enforcement of this ordinance, and to avoid unnecessary confiscation and destruction rather than a requirement. The proposed ordinance also sets forth an abatement process for anyone not in compliance. Community divided at the November hearing. A standing room only crowd seemed evenly divided in their opinions regarding the proposed ordinance. Those in favor shared concerns with noise, traffic, crime, odor, as well as the harm of property values. Several growers and medical marijuana patients spoke, telling supervisors they obey the laws, and argued the proposed ordinance would be unduly restrictive. And some simply wanted the local leaders to recognize that Nevada City Councilwoman Renette Sinham called the elephant in the room, the fact that illegal marijuana cultivation remains the economic backbone of the county. Local cannabis activist Patricia Smith noted that cannabis is California's #1 cash crop and that Nevada County is second only to the Emerald Triangle in statewide cannabis production. Smith, who runs nonprofit patient advocacy group Grassroots Solution, had hoped to work to overturn the country ban on medical marijuana dispensaries. In the wake of the recent federal crackdown, Smith has adopted a wait-and-see tactic on the dispensary front, but she strenuously opposes any move in Nevada County to ban grows. That is for today's local news, and hope you had a good Christmas and have a happy New Year. We'll be talking to you again tomorrow, Wednesday. Christopher's Old World Deli and Catering Company has brought its delicious food and service downtown Grass Valley. Do you like desserts? They got 'em. You like international style lunches? They got 'em. Christopher's Deli and Catering for parties, get-togethers, weddings, or whatever. Open 7 days a week. Bellstar Shop is a one-of-a-kind place you will find on the Ridge. Steaming hot coffee and a cool atmosphere with healthy food, organic desserts, and meals available. Belle and her smile will not be forgotten the first time you visit.